Welcome to GoVMlab, India's first job-ready VMware learning platform where professionals meet experts to revolutionize their VMware careers.
So now the next important policy, what do we have it, is teaming and failover. And I believe that every one of you at least would have configured teaming failover, right? If you have been a VMware administrator, uh, or if you have taken care of this teaming kind of stuff, right? So before I go and explain you about the teaming, let me quickly show you that where do you see this teaming stuff, right? So that you can correlate that what we are going to go and discuss about it, right? So when you actually go to your ESXi host, you go to your ESXi host networking, you go to the virtual switches. Now we discussed that either you can create a policy at the switch level or at the port group level. So even if you go to the switch level, so this is my, let's say, standard switch created right here. If I click on edit, right here, I have a policy called teaming and failover, right? So this policy, if you really see that, this is at my switch level policy. And when you click on this teaming and failover policy, that's where you see a different kind of option. Now, what all options do you see that? Do you see it here? You do see options like port based ID. You do see options like port ID based, IP hash based, source MAC based, right? Or maybe explicit failover order. So this is what we're going to talk about it. So we're going to talk about these policies: IP hash, MAC hash, port ID based policy. And the last, what do we have it, is the failover policy, which is your explicit failover order, right? And when you go and talk about explicit failover order, that's where we do see two different options: link status only and beacon probing. So what is this failure detection mechanism? This is what we're going to talk about it as a failover policies. And what are these IP hash, source MAC, and the vport ID based policies? This is what we're going to talk about it, right? Now, either you can create the policy at the port group level or at the switch level, as I have shown you. You go to the teaming failover, you see the policy at the switch level, or you can actually go to the specific port group also, and you can define the policy right here at the port group level. So this is my port group, and there also you do see this policies. But then if you click on this option, which means I am overriding default switch policy and I'm doing the policy at the port group level. That is where you have an override option, where you want to override your port group policies on the default switch policies, what you have, whatever you have it, right? So that is where you get this option. Now, if you ask me, how do I go and configure these policies? I can quickly go and configure this policy right there. It's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. So let's say I want to configure load balancing policies. I can go to teaming and failover, and let's assume that I want to configure source MAC hash. I select the policy called as source MAC hash. I can click on OK and done. My policy configuration is done. I have successfully configured the policy source MAC hash on my standard switch, right? So this is what we're going to talk about it. That's what I said, right? Doing the things from the UI is a 2-minute stuff, right? But then we need to understand what are these policies all about it. This is what we're going to talk about it. And before we go and start having a discussion, there also you do see a couple of options. You have something called active adapters. You have something called standby adapters, and they have something called unused adapters, which you're not using it at all. You just have it as a spare capacity. And then we have active adapters and standby adapters, right? So this is what we're going to go and talk about in this particular discussion. So now what is exactly is teaming right now, right? So let's again go back to our discussion. So when we talk about teaming, right, I think it's a very standard procedure, what you have it in the traditional networking also, where even if you take our example of a virtual machine, right? So let's say this is my virtual switch, right? And let's say I have just created some of the VMs here, right? And all these VMs, let's say, connected to a one common port group. And then here we have a couple of uplinks, right? So let's say we just have a one uplink for a moment. For the sake of discussion, let's assume that we just have a one uplink here, and I just create this uplink right here, right? So now this becomes, let's say, my VM1, this becomes my VM2, this becomes my VM3. What do we have it here? And then we do have a port group here. So let's say I call it as, let's say, my production VM port group, and this is my virtual switch. This virtual switch will be actually connected to a physical switch. So we'll have a physical switch right here. And then this is my uplink, my switch port, right? This is the basic networking, what we have been keep referring throughout our discussion, right? Now, the problem with this implementation is that these are your production servers, right? So obviously this is the production port group, which means all my, let's say, 3-tier application web application server applications, and then this web app application, right? Whatever we have a DB server, they're all running on this particular port group. And these are my production servers, right? Maybe it's running my e-commerce website where my customers are continuously hitting this website to look at my traffic and all those things, right? Now, the problem in this implementation is that what happens if this goes down, right? That's a single point of failure. So we call it as a single point of failure. Because if this uplink goes down, I lose all my servers, right? My critical production servers will lose the network connectivity. And if it losing the network connectivity, it means it's causing a downtime for me, right? Which is not good for the business. So obviously that's one of the problem. We have it. So whenever you connect a single uplink to your virtual switch, it's never a good practice because you are causing a single point of failure in your environment. The another problem in this with the single point of so obviously the single point of failure where we don't have a redundancy in place. The second problem is the over exhaustion of the traffic, right? Just imagine continuously your millions of users, which is actually hitting your web servers every second, right? The millions of requests coming to this web server, and this web server is actually traffic is going to this uplink, and let's say this uplink has a 10 gig bandwidth. Then what is happening? Because of the kind of flow of traffic is happening, right? This NIC bandwidth is getting oversaturated. It's actually getting saturated, exhausted, right? Your NIC bandwidth, because you just have a one guy who is handling all of your traffic. How much he can process the packet, right? He has its own limit. He has its own limit of 10 gig, which means it cannot process more than 10 gig packets. And then your request is continuously sending, let's say 30 gig of request. Then what will happen? Out of 30 gig, 10 gig packet will be processed, remaining 20 gig request will be dropped, and then you will have a packet loss because your infrastructure is not capable enough to handle the request of the traffic, whatever is being generated by your end users, right? So that is another bottleneck. What you have it with this kind of implementation, it is something like your manager is taking a work of 5 people, but then there's only one person who is in the team. So now he is expecting this guy to work 24/7 for next 1 month. It's not possible, right? As a human being, we can majorly can work for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours at the most, right? How could you expect and have a timeline where you're expecting a goal saying that I want to deliver this project in a 5 days, assuming a resource will work 24/7? Not possible, right? So obviously you need to add more people in your team to distribute that workload, right? So that if there is a 40 hours of project time is there, then you should, and you consider 8 hours per person, right? Then you should be hiring at least 5 employees, right? So you can deliver this 40 hours of project in 5 days. I'm not denying that, but then your resource planning has to be done in that way so that you can deliver this thing, right? If one person is going to work 40 hours and whatever it is, like 40 or 400 hours, whatever it is, and then you're assuming that this guy is going to work 24/7, that's not the realistic way, right? And that's where you'll have a bottlenecks, right? Either people leaving the company or whatever it is, right? So similarly, it's the same thing. Your application is generating 30, 40 gig of traffic continuously because you have exposed your application to the millions of users, and every day you're getting millions of requests pumping 40 gig of traffic, but your underlying adapter, which is actually can serve this traffic, is can only handle 10 gig request. Then what will happen? The packet drop will happen, right? Because you don't have the right implementation in place. So basically, we have a two issues here. First, we don't have a something called load distribution, right? We cannot have a load distribution here. And second is redundancy to handle the failures. So we don't have a redundancy, failures, high availability. So failover, to be more precise, if I say high availability, these two things are missing in this particular design, right? And how do we go and solve this problem? We solve this problem with the implementation of NIC teaming, right? The teaming and failover configuration, what do we have it? So what we do, this is my virtual switch. Instead of having a one adapter, I'll try to add few adapters in my virtual switch. So let's say this is one adapter, two adapter, and three adapter, right? So I just go and add a few of the adapter to my virtual switch, and this is my port group, and then let's say this is my VM, right? So this has become my virtual switch. This is my production port group, which is actually taking care of my production VM traffic. This is my VM1. This is my VM2. This is my VM. 3. And this is, let's say, my VMNIC 0, VMNIC 1, VMNIC 2. And then here I would be having my physical switch somewhere here, which will be having a ports. And then this uplink will be connected to these ports. This is the basic networking, right? What do we have? But what is the good thing about this particular design is that now instead of one uplink, I have a three uplinks, VMNIC 0, 1, 2, right? Which means instead of one person in the team, I have a 3 person in the team to distribute that load. So now even if every adapter, let's say 10 gig adapter, every adapter bandwidth is 10 gig. And if my applications are pumping 30 gig of traffic, now I can handle 30 gig of traffic here because I have a load distribution in place where some of the workloads, some of the traffic can be distributed to VMNIC 0, some of the traffic can be distributed to VMNIC 1, some of the traffic can be distributed to VMNIC, right? So what is happening is basically in this particular case, if VM1 is pumping some traffic, I can divert VM1 traffic to this uplink, right? If my VM2 is sending a traffic, VM2 traffic, I can send it to my this uplink. And if my VM3 is sending a traffic, right? So I can actually send VMNIC 3 traffic to this uplink. So what is happening? The distribution is happening. This is what we call load distribution or load balancing, right? That's one of the advantage of this kind of configuration where you have added more than one uplink to your single virtual switch. So single virtual switch is having more than three uplinks, more than one uplink, right? So you can create a team of two uplinks or more than two or three or whatever it is, right? So ultimately, if you have a virtual switch having a connectivity with more than one uplink, we call this configuration as a teaming configuration. So you can have a team of two people also, right? So anything more than one uplink, you have added to the virtual switch. We call this configuration as a teaming configuration. And what is the benefit we get with this kind of configuration? One is load balancing, load distribution, and second is high availability, failover, right? So let's say if one of the reason, if this adapter goes down, will there be impact on my traffic? At least my traffic is not going down, right? There is no network connectivity loss is going to happen because this VM traffic, which was going over this uplink, now it will fail over either to this uplink or it will fail over to this uplink. So I still have a uplink which can serve the traffic. The only issue what will happen here is the bandwidth because earlier I was processing 30 gig request. Now I will only be processing 20 gig request because one of my 10 gig adapter is down, but that's okay, right? There will be some slowness in the response and the request, right? But still you are not causing like my web server is not available, right? So that is what the teaming is giving you. The teaming giving you load balancing, and second, it gives you high availability or redundant network redundancy actually failover kind of stuff, right? And this is what the second benefit what we have it. So these are the two purpose. Why do we always attach more than one uplink to our virtual switch? And whenever you attach more than one uplink to your virtual switch, we call this as a teaming configuration. And that is what your NIC teaming and failover is all about it, right? So now this is the reason why we always attach more than one uplink to a virtual switch. But then what we really need to understand. So I explained you there are three different mechanisms: IP hash, MAC hash policy, and port ID based policy. So VMware has three different policies or algorithms to distribute this load, right? How would you define? How would VMware define that if VM1 traffic is coming, should I forward to VMNIC 0 or should I forward to VMNIC 1? How VMware virtual switch will decide that if any traffic coming from VM3, should I send it over VMNIC 2 or should I send it over VMNIC 1, right? So how would I take a call? See, I know that the load distribution means distributing the load across the uplinks. But then how would I take a call that this VM traffic, I will send it to VMNIC 0, not the VMNIC 1? This VM1, VM2 traffic, I will send it to VMNIC 1, not the VMNIC 0, right? So on what? So, I mean, honestly, as a VMware administrator, you don't care how VMware is sending this traffic, right? And I'm not sure if you have ever cared about should I select IP hash or port ID based policy, right? You might have just selected default policy and done, right? But then obviously there are different kind of policies VMware has provided you, and we'll just try to understand these three policies, right? And once you understand these policies, this is what your NIC teaming is all about it. But then the implementation I am going to explain you, but you as an administrator really don't care about how these algorithms are working in the backend, right? So now let me explain you the very first algorithm called port ID based algorithm, right? So let me explain you the port ID based algorithm. If you have interest in learning VMware more in depth, not from an administration perspective, but from the architect or consulting perspective, then join our VMware vSphere Zero to Hero Data Center Expert program. This particular program has been highly rated by all of our learners. 100 plus careers have been transitioned successfully with our Zero to Hero Data Center Expert Deep Dive program with the 100% placement record. Now, what are the key highlights of this program? As you could see that it's India's first job-ready VMware learning program, which has a 70 hours of intense learning with the 80 plus hands-on labs. 40 plus scenarios would be presented to a learner as a challenge questions to assess their learning. We do have a mentors having a 15 years of experience and the certified professionals. You would be getting opportunity to have a one-on-one in-person doubt clarification session with the VMware mentor, and this particular zero to hero program will also preparing learners for a L3 or senior level profiles. Now we have transitioned many careers with our deep dive program, and you can see some of the feedbacks right here on your screen. These are the feedbacks what we have received from all of our successful learners who has transitioned their career with us. So what are you waiting for? If you want to become VMware expert or want to master this technology, then call us now today on the given number, or maybe drop us email on the provided email address. Thank you.